When I look at how enterprises are approaching generative AI right now, I see the same mistake again and again. Leaders are thinking about AI ready, meaning to choose the right model, plugging the API, and shipping a demo. But the truth is, that's not business ready. Behind the shiny interface of tools like ChatGPT lies billions of dollars of infrastructure, rare talent, and constant experimentation. And these things most organizations will never have. So the real question isn't which model you use, it's how you build the systems that actually work in your business with the resources you have got and the people that you can trust. And that's why I wanted to sit down with Denis Rothman is the author of Building Business Ready Generative AI Systems. And in this conversation, we are going to break down what business ready really means, why architecture matters more than hype, and how enterprises can balance quick wins with long term resilience. Dennis, welcome.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you for your time, Dennis. Dennis, before we dive into the book, I wanted to start with you. You have spent years writing about AI, from explainability to transformers, and now these business-ready systems. But behind the titles and research, there is always a story. So let me ask you this: how do you introduce yourself when someone asks, "What do you do?" And what brought you to this point of your journey with AI?
Well, it's pretty simple for me because I began to my studies in the 1970s at Sorbonne University in linguistics, and my future wife was in linguistics too in another university. And what is the name? LLM means large language model. So I was very interested in AI from the start. So in the 80s, I registered two patents, one to encode language into numerical values, which is the basis of a transformer. And the second patent was a combinatory symbolic conversational patent, which led directly to, I was still a student, to having a project with Aerospatial, which is now Airbus in the defense industry, and also a conversational bot with LVMH at Moët Chandon. And with these two references, well, it brings me all the way up to today, because once you have Airbus Aerospatial at the time and LVMH, you can just roll out all the customers you want. So it led to many, many corporate projects. So when we finished our studies, we just began a company which would teach languages and then did AI. And then we only did AI and we delivered business ready projects to corporations for something like 30 years. And the book is only a translation into recent technology of something I've been doing for decades. That's why it appears so practical to you. I just did exactly what I did in my business. I would prepare a prototype, and the last chapter of the book gives you the presentation. That is my modus operandi.
That's great. What I have seen working with a number of companies is many companies still think being AI ready means plugging into a GPT or a Llama and shipping a chatbot. But in your book, what really resonated is you argue the mindset is fundamentally flawed, that being business ready means building systems, not just demos. How do you personally define a business ready generative AI system? And why is that distinction so important for enterprises right now?
Well, look at an advertisement for Ferrari, which is one of the most beautiful cars in the world. Or look at a nice Tesla, okay, keeping all the politics apart. When you hear the Tesla says Model S, it doesn't say System S, it says Model S. So in the minds of the consumer, the model of a car, a Ferrari, a Mercedes, that's it. The consumer doesn't see all the mechanics inside of it. The engine is the LLM model or the A model. The car is everything. So if we're going to a business, the model is only a small component. It can be any of the good models, Gemini, Llama. You have to build the system. So the illusion is when you go to ChatGPT, they have succeeded bringing that confusion. The model is the system, but it's not true. The platform is mostly not AI. It's just when you load a file, it goes to a service. When you load an image, it goes to another service. When it does a web search, it does a classical web search. So there's no such thing as the model. It is in a framework that a corporation will have to build. Another thing is when you do a session on ChatGPT, it forgets everything between two sessions. If you start a new one, it forgot who you are. In a corporation, you can't do that. We can't have this meeting and then tomorrow morning you talk to me and I say, oh, what did we talk about yesterday? No, you have to have a memory. So when you install a platform, which is mostly not AI, then the model is inside. And now you have to put memory in there and you have to give it a lot of instructions. So it brings you to AI controllers. And AI controllers are not AI. They have a lot of intelligence at the top, then they will call AI. But the core of an AI controller is not AI.
That makes sense. I think AI or the model is just 5% of the whole thing when you look at a business, right? It's not only about the, as you talked about, the orchestrations, the system around it that matters. And in that purview, you introduce the concept of AI controller in your book, which I really like that concept, right? It's almost like a brain of the system orchestrating everything else. So for our listeners who are used to hearing about models, this is a big shift. So, what role does this AI controller play in making AI systems scalable and trustworthy? And how should enterprises start building one of those?
Okay, so let's not be nice to your listeners. Let's go from bottom to top. Okay, the AI controller first controls the model at the lowest level. We've opened the hood of our Ferrari, of our Mercedes, and we're looking inside, and we can see that the AI controller controls the model itself. The model itself can only produce one token at a time, part of a word. It's not even going to say Dennis. It's going to say Den and then S. So the model, what you have to understand is the model produces just one little thing at a time. That's AI. That's the LM. That's the superpower of the system. But just above, you start with the AI controller says, no, 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 I don't want that token. I want that token. No, 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 I don't agree. Here's a dictionary of tokens you gave me. I'm going to take the most probable ones. I'm going to filter them. I don't want creativity. I'm going to give you a temperature 0. I just want, what is the capital of France? Paris. I don't want anything else. Or I'll give you some temperature. Okay, the capital of France is a beautiful city called Paris. Okay, so you have at the bottom a control that says token by token. It goes so fast that you don't see it, right? It's like images in a film, but it controls that. Now, just above it, you have to say, what are you going to do? You can't just write prompts anymore. Those days are over. People are saying, I write a prompt and I didn't get what I want. Sure, they think the system is telepathic. There is a human hiding in the computer and it guesses exactly. No, it doesn't know anything. It's just giving you one piece of word at a time. So now you need to write a context. And this context is going to be read by the controller that I built this prototype in the book for the readers, and it's going to decide what to do. Suppose we're talking, they say, what did we say yesterday? Okay, it's say, oh, let me go back into my database and get the transcript of what we said yesterday. So it'll go with what we call RAG, retrieval. It'll go in the system and it will get yesterday's transcript. It'll bring it back, but it's not going to give a 1 hour, half an hour interview. It's going to summarize it. And then we ask to generate the system, the LLM to summarize and to generate. But then I'm not going to write instructions every day. I'm not going to spend my time rewriting prompts. So I'm going to store them. I'm going to store the instructions, these super well crafted prompts, context engineering in the system. Okay. The book is full of context engineering, which is a trending term right now. So then I'm not going to even write my prompt. I'm going to say, what did I say yesterday? That'll go into the system, find the instruction, go and get the transcript, pull it out, summarize it, and give it back to you just with what did we talk about yesterday? That is what a system in a corporation needs to be, or the users won't use it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. You did mention retrieval augmented generation, like which is a very popular pattern I see across enterprises. But what struck with me is how you flipped that idea, suggesting that RAG can also act as an orchestration layer by storing instructions and not just the knowledge in vector databases, right? Can you unpack this idea of RAG as an orchestration? I think it'll be really interesting, and why it changes the way we think about scaling AI in businesses.
Yeah, okay. So this is very simple for the listener. Just go to memory. You might notice that a big part of the book is on memory. short-term memory, long-term memory, memory of real events, false events, executive memory, imagination. The book is full of analyzing memory. So let's take you and me. We have a memory, but we don't have a memory only for data. Every time we pull something out of our memory, we transform it. There is no such thing as static memory. That is an illusion. So if you go to modern neuroscience, in our memory, we have instructions. We have stored instructions since our childhood to don't touch the stove. When you turn on the stove, be careful, don't put your hand. Wait for the water to boil before you put your egg. We have we're we're full of instructions. We have thousands and thousands of piles of instructions, and we have piles of knowledge, and our mind puts them together. So all I did was work on neuroscience for this book and just produce a memory in the RAC system that contains both the executive memory of a human being and the knowledge, and I just put them together with the AI controller.
That's fascinating. If if executive or someone who's in charge of implementing AI in a business had to start building these systems, what would be your advice to them? Like, how should they be looking at? What should be the starting point?
The starting point is quite simple for me because I'll give you a real life example. I was working for a huge warehouse company, someone that delivers all the time, delivering all over the world. So I went to a warehouse and I had wanted to implement such a system. And now you need the instructions. What do you and I know? Nothing. What does a consultant know? Nothing. What does a CAO know? Nothing. Who knows something? The person that is working in the warehouse, the worker, the guy that's going around. If it's not automated, and if it's automated, the planner. There's always a planner in front of the peers, and he has the whole thing in his mind. He is the boss. He's the one you want to talk to. So now you take him out of his work and you put him in a meeting room. Then you take your IT person, you put him in a meeting room. Then you have your CEO come in or your top manager because you need management rules too. Guidance, I have goals I want to deliver on time. You put them in a workshop and then you have a subject matter expert that will write these instructions that will, what we want to put, what knowledge do we want to keep? What instructions do we want to give the system? We're just creating the brain of the system with two directions, rules and knowledge. If you look at my two hands, doesn't this remind you of an expert system? It's an expert system. A generative AI is just probabilistic. An expert system, it works exactly like that. You assert knowledge, you assert rules, and it puts it together in a combinatory logic. So what's happening here is we're workshop to give us rules, to give us what knowledge, and the LLM just does what the old prologue expert systems did. Instead of having to write all that, the LLM will just take that and put it all together again and give you something fascinating. That's the power of generative AI if you give them the both sides of a human being.
That makes sense. I think one of the things that I've observed in businesses is the reason why demos shine and then the production systems don't is because the demos are primarily built by technical people like in innovation labs who are not connected to what you call the planner who is probably working in a warehouse, right? And they might do something very small, but when it comes to enterprise grade, they miss all of those expertise of the people working on the ground in the field, right? And that's one of the challenges that I see clearly come out in businesses are obviously made of people, and you talk about these humans, right? And when you think about like the way you explain like extracting their knowledge into a system and building these expert systems, there is often a belief that once you have AI, the humans will step aside, right? But in your book you emphasize that humans still remain central through governance, through frameworks, and domain expertise. How do you see the balance between automation and human oversight in these systems? And what does human in the loop really look like in practice?
Well, this comes to a very amusing question for me. I just love this question because, as you may have noticed, I'm a pioneer, which means I registered patents in the 80s, which are coming out now on the market. And what I see is very funny. It's funny, but it's not funny. It's amusing for an intellectual. There are two kinds of people, pure operators and architects. You can automate pure operators to a certain extent, but you can't automate the architects and you can't automate the architect in the operator. So I'll go back to a very specific example. One of my first projects was to automate the optimization of fabric in a huge apparel company. And the manager says, well, once that system works, we don't need people to plan anymore. And I said, sure, go ahead. If you want your whole company to fail, go ahead. Automate the whole. You can automate maybe out of 5 people, maybe you can suppress 2, 3, but you have to keep 2. And he says, why do I have to do that? It costs me money. I said, that is a very stupid. I told him exactly that. That's stupid reasoning, because what you're going to save with this system is millions and millions, and what this person costs is just thousands. And he said, who's going to pilot the system? I said, a worker. But the worker doesn't know how to use a computer. I said, we'll train him. What I'm saying is, in the years to come, I would say in the next 5 years, people are going to go full throttle, automate, fire people, go ahead. And all of a sudden, they're going to kick out the know-how of their company with the people, just like Europe did by subcontracting all production in Asia. And now they're saying in the United States in the West, oh, we're going to reindustrialize. Well, they aren't, because they lost all the know-how of the old people that were 40, 50, 60. When the United States says, Taiwan, come and build chips in the United States. They don't know how to build them anymore. They don't have to build cars. You're going to have to train people for a generation. You cannot automate. You can't automate the business process. You have to keep people in there, and you can only reduce the number of people, but you can't suppress the people. So you need, in the first chapter, I show a RACI, RACI. You need someone to design the system. You need someone to maintain it. What do you do when the computer stops? The server goes, no, we automated. So you're going to need people all the time, and especially to design. How is someone going to go in a workshop to get the knowledge and the rules with an LLM? Now, the LLM, this can bring one token at a time. You're not going to replace that person. So you're going to need, what I'm going to say is, the architecture threshold of training will be that high. The operators will disappear. That's for sure. Everyone that's today, this is a cool platform, I know how to use it. Well, don't worry, he's going to be unemployed. But if someone like you says, who's going to create the architecture? Oh, they're going to get a job. So it's just going to be like when we went from horses to cars. The cars automated people, but the people are still there 100 years after. So you're going to need people all the time. It's an illusion. It's an illusion of California dreaming, like the song.
I often get in this interesting question in discussions with customers and wider is, we all talk about AI embedding into teams, and then humans and AI working together, and then the human in the loop concept comes in the future. When and we talk about AI agents nowadays, right? If in the future, how do you think these teams will be shaped up, and how should businesses think about from now in terms of shaping these teams?
I don't see AI. I'll give you another image. You have humans there and AI there. I don't see it like that. It won't happen like that. AI and humans are going to be progressively like this. And there's this jazz pianist I like a lot in France, and he says, I'm an accomplished jazz, but sometimes I use AI and it brings me a little further in my ideas. Then I go back to my piano. So what I'm saying is, it's going to merge. That's why I'm saying, do not automate people with AI. Do not do that unless it's really, there's not much to the job, but then your task will be to train this person to merge with AI. It's like maybe you've seen musicians with a guitar. They're playing, and then you see them push on a pedal and they get this very nice sound, and then they take the pedal off with the electric guitar. That's the AI. It's going to be an instrument for us, and we're going to play with it. We're going to say, I'm doing that, yeah, but give me an idea. Okay, right. Now, just write me that paragraph. Okay, right. It's just going to be like playing an instrument. But you can't see like a musician like Eric Clapton, the guitarist, and he comes on scene and then you just listen to an AI version of him. Because, no, it doesn't exist. You need the creativity of a human. A transformer has no emotion. It has the text of emotion, all the emotions in the world in text, but we recreate the emotions. That's why it gives the illusion of consciousness. So I'd say it'll be a merge when the best ones will be the musicians of AI that will know how to play the system, but keep their personality. So I see it merge maybe, I don't know, 15, 20, 25 years. For the moment, everyone's in this, like electricity. When electricity, yeah, they're there. So just let them go there, but they're going to hit a wall. They're going to have to call people back in for the know-how, and the people with know-how will know how to use it as an instrument.
Makes
That
sense.
that will happen.
Yeah. I love the guitar analogy, by the way. I mean, it perfectly explains on how things will work together. So when I work with businesses, right, so the most common questions everyone is asking is return of investment on AI. And I see businesses often face this dilemma. Like when they get started, they need to show ROI fast to the leadership with a quick win, or they also need to think about how to build for the long-term resilience, right? And you, in your book, you talk about hybrid approaches, like building small scale systems and then full scale platforms as different entry points. How should a business leader decide whether to start with a hybrid, small scale, or full scale system? And what's the danger of getting these choices wrong?
Okay, so let me speak to you like I spoke to my customers for decades. First of all, forget about AI, forget about software. What do you need to optimize? And why do you need to optimize? So let's say you want to optimize your resources, material resources. I said, okay, do you have the information? Do you have all the data of your whole global supply chain, like on 5 continents? Do you have the data? Why do you need software? I'll start like that. Why don't you just reorganize your company and work better? Because sometimes AI is the illusion of bad organization. So the first thing you're going to say to your customer, stop talking about software. Show me your organization. If your organization is well structured, yes, then there's maybe something to do. But if your data in your ERP is all wrong, what do you want me to do? What are we going to look at? So 80% is getting the data that they don't have. They don't have the data. That's 100% of the cases, except for maybe people like Amazon who live on data, or Google, they live on data. So then when I get there and I say, okay, let's take a piece of paper. Okay, now show me how you would want to optimize your company with a piece of paper. Okay, this is what I really did. Okay, I'm talking about top CEOs of the companies I mentioned. And we do this. And he says, yeah, with this piece of paper. See, you don't need software. Bye bye. I'll come back in 2 or 3 months when you've done that. Then you come back. You say, okay, let's take a spreadsheet. Okay, now let's try to organize the flows with a spreadsheet. He said, yeah, it works. Yeah, I just did this plus minus. I just focused on the late deliveries and the late customers, and I have this little report with business objects or Cognos or whatever you want. I said, yeah, bye bye. Okay, I'll come back in 6 months. 6 months after, he said, listen, my data is organized. These are real stories. My data is organized. I reorganized the company. I did everything I could with business objects and stuff like that. What can we do now? I say, where are we going to get money? What money? So if we're talking about a big corporations, I would say under $1 million, it's not worth it. Forget about it. If you're not going to earn $1 million, where are you going to invest all these people? You know how many people you're going to have to invest? The servers, the people, the maintenance, the support. And if it's a small company and I say you can't get $200,000, forget it. You don't need it. Use Excel, use spreadsheets, use business intelligence. You don't need AI unless maybe if it's very cheap, you can use it for emails to write some emails. So you're going to have to, the bottom line here is you're going to have to find the level of AI, or you're going to begin with no AI, then the level of AI, and then go there. But it has to be proportional to the ROE each time, and not in 10 years. I'm talking 3 months. If you can't bring money back in 3 months, bye bye. Or let's say, okay, 6 months, because after that, your company is not going to be the same again. We're in 2025. The world changes every 3 to 6 months. So your thing is going to be obsolete anyway in 3 to 6 months. So you have to get your money back quick. And then you adapt it, you scale it. So it's a job in itself, which I just proved to you that without humans, it won't work. And I'm not talking about one human. I'm talking about a whole bunch of humans, okay, in different fields. So you can see that I'm like a cat. I just fell on my feet. And they say, in this answer, where did we speak about software? Never. The human is the thinker. He's going to say that's the instrument. That's my guitar. Or I don't. I'll just sing. Some singers sing a cappella. You have this singer that comes on a show, and all of a sudden, this beautiful woman sings with no instruments. Okay, so the human will decide where they are, and then you just get to. It's very easy after once you do something like in my book. It's easy.
That's fascinating. I love that answer. I think at the end of the day, it's whether people can trust the systems we build. And you say trust is not just about policy, but it's about embedding safety into the architecture itself. What does trust by design look like in generative AI? And how should enterprises rethink evaluation and governance so safety isn't an afterthought?
I'll tell you something. Let's go back to two companies that just came to my mind. One, an aircraft company that maintains private jets, and another one is a defense company. And the defense companies, I began to work in the 80s up to now. You can forget about all these problems you're talking about because you have risk management and security breathing down your neck every second. What data are you taking? Where is that data coming from? So you have a risk manager and you have a security officer. Humans are coming back to my conversation. So the security officer says, what's that data? What data? Where is that data coming from? What are you putting in the system? Okay, we're putting a monitor on your system. We'll be monitoring everything you say, everything that goes. It'll go into, and they have these special rooms maybe you don't know about, where no one knows. They're locked in there, and they see everything that's going on the servers, all the data. And I'm talking about 20 years ago. Okay, we're not in 2000. We're talking about the past. That's what I'm trying to tell you, not the future. And they're controlling all the stream of everything that's going on, right? So all you need now is a filter at your security level. If you're a corporation, you have a service that does that, and it's analyzing everything that's going through. Anything that is private, confidential, you will have two security officers in your office in 10 seconds. And I've tested this literally, okay? You do write something, you have it come along, okay, we've detected this, we're going to take you out. No, I'm testing, this is cybersecurity. Okay, so all this has been there for 20 years. So what's the problem with LLM? The problem with LLM is it's taking data from somewhere else and it's bringing it into your answer. Now that's a problem because that model took data from the whole world. It just didn't take the whole world is in that model. So now you have this alien that comes from another planet and he's bringing all that data in my company. He's worrying me. That is a big worry. So when a user writes a prompt, I'm going to control it. I have this example in the book. First, I'm going to see if there's any language that shouldn't be used, any type. So I have a JSON file that will just go up and up and up and up and up as security detects things. It will become huge. So even if you make a gender mistake, poof, it'll just say, no. I'm sorry. This is not wokeism. This is respect. This is the new world. We're not living in 1960 anymore, my friend. We're living in 2024. If he wants to be him, she, you just respect it. Okay, I don't want legal problems. Or if you're saying bad language or you're machist, or I don't want that, or racist. So you have, that's a nice filter. And then you have my RAG system is full of confidential data. So if a prompt or an answer, so the prompt goes in, if there's a similarity, cut it off. If an answer comes back from the LLM that seems similar to my confidential data, bam, kill switch. And it's implemented in my book, these two levels. And at one time, I put so much controls, there were no answers. I was testing my own system. I was writing a prompt. No, sorry. I was getting so I was writing the prompt correctly, but I wouldn't get the answer. So you're controlling both sides. You're controlling the language. You're controlling the data, which means that you need RAG to have a full list of what's confidential. And it's very easy because the LLM is very powerful to detect this. So you have an LLM that's detecting before an LLM that's answering, which brings you to agents.
Makes sense. I think this is one of the most talked about aspects when we talk to businesses around security, trust, and I think you have explained it very simply that one of the main concerns is because the LLM is bringing data from the outside, which is not the organization's data, and that's the main concern. And that's where all of these architectural considerations that you mentioned comes in. Fascinating, Dennis. We always close with a rapid fire round. These are short questions, gut level answers. Are you ready to take some?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. Okay. What's one misconception about generative AI you wish people should drop tomorrow?
Stop being telepathic. Stop thinking you can just write something and it'll be telepathic. There's no one behind that computer. There's no one. It's just math. So just try to think about that and write context better.
Great advice. If you had to build a Gen AI system in 1 week, which business use case would you pick first?
Late deliveries.
Nice. What's the most underrated component of an AI system? the thing enterprises overlook most.
The AI controller, as we just said, that can control different levels of everything.
One book outside of your own that shaped how you think about technology or systems.
Okay, this will surprise you. The Critic of Pure Reason by Immanuel Kant, a philosopher, because he speaks about abstraction. Or you can have Leibniz, who invented combinatorics, Descartes, who created algebra. If you read these books, you will have such a strong basis of abstraction, of mathematics, of philosophy, because these people had logic and math at the same time. So once you create this world, this whole conversation has been philosophy, mathematics, structure, thought, cognitive, technical. Now, if you go from cognitive, technical, philosophy, math, then you go back to the 16th century, 17th century, okay? And if you go back to India, then you have great mathematicians and philosophers all in the same books. So you have to go back to the fundamentals, then come back to technology, because that's where AI is going. AI is so powerful, it has all of humanity in it. So you need the two levels, cognitive, technical, philosophical, mathematical.
Super. If enterprises do one thing differently in AI this year, what should it be?
Think first of what you're doing with the machine and the people. Don't
Great.
do it. Don't do it. Think first.
Makes sense. Complete the sentence. The future of generative AI is.
AI becoming an instrument for the human being. It won't control him and he won't control it. It will be just an instrument, like a piano, like the violin, like a synthesizer, electric guitar. That's the future of AI once it all merges.
Super. Dennis, this has been a fascinating conversation. What I love about your book is it shows the hard but necessary work of building systems that are business ready and where enterprises should actually focus. For anyone listening who wants to go deeper, Dennis' book is called Building Business Ready Generative AI Systems. I can't recommend it enough if you're serious about moving beyond demos into a trusted, scalable AI in enterprises. Dennis, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you very much.